They cut the world from a goddess' flesh. Long ago, before the stars had names and before the moon had a face, there was only the goddess. She was vast, endless, and her body was the universe itself. Her skin was the sky, her breath was the wind, and her voice was the thunder. She was everything, and everything was her. But the world we know, the mountains, the rivers, did not yet exist. The goddess was alone, and in her loneliness she dreamed. In her dreams, she saw creatures walking on her skin, living and laughing, loving and fighting. She saw trees stretching toward her fingertips, and oceans swirling in the hollows of her palms. She wanted these things to be real. But how could life exist when she herself was everything? There was no space for anything else. So the goddess made a choice, painful choice. With her own hands, she began to cut. First, she took a piece of her flesh, soft and glowing like the dawn, and laid it down. From this piece she shaped the earth. The highest peaks were carved from her bones, and the deepest valleys were formed from the curves of her fingers. The soil was rich because it was part of her, and the rivers flowed because her blood still ran through them. Next, she plucked strands of her hair, long and shimmering, and threw them into the sky. These became the stars. Her tears became the rain. Her laughter became the songs of birds. Every piece of her was given away, torn from her body to make room for the world she had dreamed of. When she was finished, the goddess was no longer whole. She was weakened, her body scattered across creation. But she was not sad. She looked down at what she had made. The forests whispering in the wind, the fish dancing in the rivers, the people walking upon her skin, and she smiled. For a time, all was peaceful. The people lived in harmony with the world, knowing that the ground beneath their feet was sacred, that the air they breathed was a gift. They told stories of the goddess, remembering her sacrifice. They whispered her name in gratitude. But as years passed, the people forgot. They built great cities of stone, cut down the forests, and poisoned the rivers. They no longer saw the world as part of the goddess. They saw it as something to own, to conquer. Goddess watched, her heart heavy. She had given everything, and now her creation was suffering. She could not take back what she had given, but she could remind them. One night, the sky darkened, not with clouds, but with something deeper, something older. The stars flickered and the wind carried a voice, soft but powerful. "You have forgotten," the goddess whispered. "You see, earth is my flesh. The rivers are my blood. The air is my breath. When you harm the world, you harm me." The people trembled. Some fell to their knees, ashamed. Others shouted in anger, refusing to believe. But the ground beneath them trembled in answer. The rivers rose. The storms grew fierce. For days the world was in chaos. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the storms ceased. The earth stilled. The people looked around and saw what they had done, the scars upon the land, the sickness in the water. They understood at last that the world was not theirs to break. Slowly, they began to heal what they had damaged. They planted trees where forests had been lost. They cleansed the rivers. They listened to the wind, hoping to hear the goddess's voice again. She never spoke to them as clearly as she had that night. But sometimes, when the world is quiet, if you listen very closely, you can still hear her. In the rustle of leaves, in the crash of waves, in the beating of your own heart. She is still here. She has always been here, and the world is still her flesh.